Hi everyone, welcome to my video. This is assignment 1 of FIT5225. I'm building a web service using Flask, RESTful resources, Docker, and Kubernetes cluster. I put an image here so you can better understand what is going on. I use Flask to build my web service. As you can see here, it will be in this directory, and this will be my service name. The method is post. First, let's look at my main function. Whenever the client sends a post request in JSON format, I load it first. Then I decode the image string into bytes. Also, I retrieve the image ID. Then I use this function to read the image bytes and finally convert them into color space. Now let's look at the model and the do prediction method. So basically, we are using YOLO resources here to build our model. As you can see, Coco names here, and the config and weeks, and then we have get label, get config, and get weeks methods defined here. Finally, we can have our low model by using YOLO resources. Then we do prediction using the 3 arguments which the YOLO resources return, and we get layer name. We only need the last layers, and then here we use CV2 to create a blob that contains the information that we need, and then we use for loop here, and we fill out the week predictions by using this statement. So as you can see here, this argument represents 0.3, and with this way we can fill out some results without the object detection, and finally use these statements to get the results as what we want. Now let's look back here. As you can see here, we'll return a response into JSON format as well back to the client, and you can see here the web service is multi-threaded. Now let's look at my Docker file. So I will build my Docker from Ubuntu 18.04, and then I'll get update and install the libraries that I need for my web service. For example, OpenCV, Flask, and NumPy, which the web service require for the source code as well. Then I'll build a work directory called server and add my web service into this directory. Also, I'll add the YOLO resources into the directory as well. And then I'll copy the requirements to the requirements. Now let's look at my requirement files. So we'll have these resources for our web service as well. Let's look at the left side. I use these commands to build my Docker image. I call it Iweblens, and I tag it as v1. Then I use this command to build my Docker container, and you see the port is 5000, and the name of my container is Iweblens. It's built in this image. Now let's check my Docker. So this is my Docker Iweblens, and it's up and it's running, and the port is 5000. Protocol is TCP. This is my Docker image. Now let's look at my Kubernetes cluster. This is the config YML for my cluster. So I have 1 master node, 1 worker node, and my container port is 38,005. My host port is 80, and the protocol is TCP. And the deployment YML, I named my deployment Iweblens, and I started with a single port first. Then the container port is 5000, and I need to pull my Docker image into my Kubernetes cluster, which is this one, Iweblens v1. And then I limit my CPU to 0.5. This is my service YML. So the protocol is TCP, and the node port is 30,005, and the port is 5000, target port 5000. So this node port here, 30,005, is where you can reach from the cluster from the outside. And the target port is this one. In my case, it's 5000, and the port is this one, 5000. Also, the container port is 5000 as well, if you remember when we're building the Docker. So here I use this command to create my cluster, and then I load the Docker image into my Kubernetes cluster. Then these two commands to apply the deployment and service. Now let's look at my cluster. So as you can see here, if you remember, I only create one pause. If you remember, I only create one pause before, but then I use this command scale up my deployment for 3 ports. As you can see here, my service is running on port 5000 mapping to 30,005. The other one is 443, all in protocol TCP. Now let's run the commands on my local machine outside of my instance. Let's do the command, use 11 threads. As you can see, now we're getting the object detection results in JSON format, nice and clean. Let's check the pause. It is working. Let's check the other one. It is also working. Now let's look at my ports open for my instance. So we have 5,443 AT, also the 22 for SSH to reach out to our instance. This is the IP address of my Nectar instance, which is the address to access, as you can see here, to access the web service. So it's the same, 244.212. And thank you for watching.